signed Asuu signed an agreement with the federal government yesterday on salary increment and so much more. And we'll also have a conversation around the River State politics, where we've seen four lawmakers withdrawing from the impeachment saga that is currently ongoing on against the governor of River State, Larry Fubara, and his deputy as well. So we'll be having this conversation today. But before we get right into the conversation, we'll be bringing you a quick report around ASU, as our reporter, Priscilla Obasi, was able to, uncover and get us the report behind the whole ASU agreement that happened yesterday with the federal government. We'll get on the report first before we dive in straight into a bit of the background of why ASU was created in the first place and the trajectory of what has been happening from 2009 based on the agreements that have been signed and how government have responded to all of this, and if we will be seeing anything different from what was signed yesterday. It was said that from part of the negotiations that they had around 40%, there would be 40% increment, but let's get the report first from Priscilla Obasi before we begin to x-ray the conversation and at the same time introduce my guests who will help us do justice to these major talking points.
At a formal ceremony in Abuja, the federal government and ASU put pen to paper on a new agreement to replace the renegotiated 2009 pact more than 16 years after its last signing. The agreement, which takes effect January 1, 2026, includes a 40% upward review of salaries for academic staff in federal universities following approval by the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. This rise applies across academic ranks and is meant to boost morale and stem the brain drain that has affected the sector. Minister of Education Maruf Olatunji Alausa described the signed pact as a decisive turning point in public university governance and staff welfare.
Today's agreement is a clear and deliberate, with unprecedented demonstration of the commitment of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, to quality, accessible, and uninterrupted academic calendars.
Among the key provisions, the agreement also introduces enhanced pension terms where professors retiring at age 70 will receive pensions equivalent to their annual salaries, as well as the establishment of a National Research Council funded at none less than 1% of Nigeria's GDP to support research and innovation across universities. Speaking on behalf of the academic community, ASU President Chris Piwuna said the union expects the government to implement the terms fully, ending the cycle of prolonged strikes that have disrupted academic calendars. The pact also provides for improved funding models that prioritizes research, laboratories, libraries, and staff development.
This agreement focuses on conditions of service, funding, university autonomy, academic freedom, and other systemic reforms that will reverse the decay, curb the brain drain, and reposition our universities.
Major stakeholders at the event included vice-chancellors and registrars of federal universities, representatives of TETFund, leadership of ASU, members of the University Education Department of the Federal Ministry of Education, and officials from the National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission, highlighting broad institutional support for the agreement. The pact is expected to be reviewed after 3 years and represents a significant shift from years of stalled negotiations as both sides seek to build lasting industrial harmony and strengthen Nigeria's higher education sector. Priscilla Obasi, reporting for Global Television News.
Thank you so much, Priscilla Obasi, for that report. Now let's go down a bit to memory lane why ASU was actually created. The Academic Staff Union of University was founded in 1978, emerging from former Nigerian Association of University Teachers, established to protect the rights and welfare of university lecturers, defend academic freedom and university autonomy, advocate for adequate funding of public universities, promote quality education and research in Nigeria, from inception, ASU's position itself, not just ASU positioned itself not just as labor union, but as pressure group for national development through education. Now you might now wonder why ASU goes on strike. Let me bring you up to speed with that. ASU strike are usually triggered by poor funding of public universities, failure of government to honor agreements, poor salaries and working conditions of university autonomy, decreasing infrastructure, and inadequate research support. ASU urges that strikes are at least last resort adopted after negotiations fail. So looking at this now, strike hasn't always been the go-to for the academic for ASU, and then they try to negotiate first. Negotiations and conversations try to happen first before any action will be taken. In the year 2009, the federal government and ASU's agreement, which was tagged a turning point, one of the most critical moments in ASU history, was 2009 agreement signed with the federal government. Key goals of the 2009 agreement: revitalization of public universities, improved lecturer salaries and allowance funding for infrastructure, libraries and laboratories, academic autonomy and freedom established of a sustainable funding framework. However, successive government failed to fully implement the agreements, leading to repeated industrial action. Major ASU strikes over the past couple of years, started from 20, we had some way before 2010, but we want to focus more from the last couple of years. 2010 strike over non-implementation of 2009 agreements. Then in 2013, we saw a 6-month strike. One of the longest strike ended after the federal government promised a 1.3 trillion for university revitalization. Then in 2017, ASU focused on funding shortfalls and unpaid allowances. Then in 2020, strike triggered by agreement over IPPS versus UTAS, also worsened by COVID-19 disruptions. And then in 2022, strike, which lasted for 8 months, one of the most controversial court orders, lecturers backed to work, exposed deep crisis in Nigeria's public university system, sparking national debate on education reform. And then in 2023 to 2025, we've seen tensions, threats of strike due to unresolved issues eventually led to renegotiation of the 2009 agreement. And then we were seeing that yesterday came to a point where the federal government and ASU had to reach an agreement for them to be able to, settle for signing an MOU yesterday. Then moving on now, the government versus ASU's strike patterns. A pattern of recurring has defined the FG and ASU relations. Agreement signed partially or delayed implementation. ASU issues ultimatum, strike delays or decrease rather, negotiations resumed, and the cycle has contributed to unstable academic calendar and declining global competitiveness of Nigerian university. Then fast forward yesterday, January 14th, 2024, the federal government and academic staff union of universities formally signed a renegotiation agreement that ended a 16 years impasse over the outdated 2009 federal government and ASU pacts. The renegotiation formally concluded on December the 23rd, 2025, after an extensive talks, and the new terms were set to take effect from the 1st of January 2026. Key details of the agreements below shows salary and allowance reform, 40% increase in salaries for academic staff in federal universities effective from January the 1st, 2026. Salary structuring incorporates strengthened constituted academic tool allowance, covering research-related items, publications, internet access, conference preparation, learning society membership, etc., and as well as books. So moving on, still professional and academic allowance, a new professional credit allowance has been introduced, and then professor to receive about 1.4740 1.74 million, and also we're expected to see to receive around 1.74 million to 1.8 million per year. Academic raiders, associate professors to receive about 840,000 annually. Those allowances aim to support research coordination, scholar documentation, and administrative responses. Then another key thing that was looked into was also academic tools and earning allowance is now embedded in salary structure to support essential academic duties. 9 and academy allowance have been restructured so that they also can be transparent, clearly defined, and linked to duties performed. E.g., and in these categories goes down to postgraduate supervision, field work, exams, clinic, and responsibilities. Then the major that was also talked about was university autonomy and systematic reforms. The agreement contains provision on university autonomy and systematic freedom aimed at reducing government interference, strengthening governance, and improving institutional stability. The STAR is also addressed funding reform of public universities and include a pitch of National Research Council bill to allocate at least 1% of the GDP to research and development. And then later on, they mentioned around pension and welfare improvement and improved pension benefit for staffs, including provisions such as retiring at the age of 70 with pensions equal to full annual salaries, a long-standing ASU demand. So looking at all of this now, these have been the major thing that ASU have been fighting for and trying to get. And then did the federal government agree to all of this? If they did not agree to most of it, we wouldn't be having an agreement being signed. So to join us, unpack and x-ray the conversation is a journalist and also a political analyst, and he is the national president of Not Too Young to Perform here in Nigeria in the person of Comrade James Ezema. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Discourse today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, it's not news. I don't want to use your words, but it's not news. It's not good news that ASU have been going on strike over and over and over again, and some persons, after the one that happened in around 2014, that lasted for almost a year. Some persons, they even get to go back to school again. They just focused more on business, and that has, contributed negatively towards that era of, people that were supposed to represent Nigeria in the educational sector. So moving on now, looking at this agreement now, do you think there will be an overturn from what we usually used to see between ASU and the federal government? Do you think we have come to the end of ASU going on strike?
Well, it will be difficult to say that we have come to the end because this is not the first time that the federal government is signing an agreement with ASU. In fact, agreement with ASU began as far back as 1992.
Yes.
So they started talking about agreement, 1999 agreement, up to 2009, which was the one that everybody celebrated, just as we are celebrating this one. The 2009 agreement actually was seen as the end of the issues that has to do with ASU strike and any of all the demands that ASU have making, to make a university better, and also to make the academic environment better. So by 2009, we clapped the same way they snapped pictures. Everybody were laughing,
yes.
And then the whole country were agog. Everybody was like, "Oh, we are finally, we are seeing the end of ASU strike." But alas, no government implemented any of that agreement since 2009 to date. And then now we are seeing the 2026 agreement that is now being celebrated, just as we celebrated the 2009 agreement. And I think if a child that was born in 2009 were to start school, even primary school, he should have been finished graduating by now.
I think talking about going into we are talking 16 years here.
Yes, but we are now talking about somebody, an institution and that is crying and wailing for help by the federal government. I say, come to our aid. Help us to help the students that pass through these institutions. And then we are here going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, you see, the problem with the federal government is that they will always agree. Once there is a problem, they will agree. That's how they will agree with the
so as people to go back to work.
The doctors going on strike,
yes,
they will agree. They go back to work. After you use the work no pay policy to try to coerce them, if it didn't work, you now sign agreement and you agree, and you do one or two things that they feel that okay, it's like they have listened to us. Before you know it, there is no action whatsoever. And what happens? We go back to the same cycle of negotiation and renegotiation and things like that. And the irony is that the more you renege in some of these agreements, the more you are what you are actually going to spend on that sector will be increasing. So what they are talking now is no longer the same thing that we're talking about in 2009.
Yes.
No, we are talking about something bigger than what, because that's the issue with us as people. If you didn't give me what I was looking for before, and then some fresh things has come, I will have to want to put everything together. Because I don't know whether you will give, so that at least if you are going to give, you give
cover
part of some of these things, then it could cover up for whatever that
have not gotten before.
Have not
because the economy is changing and there's
clearly changing.
Yes.
So the thing is that I don't know how we can talk to the federal government. See, education is one of the fundamental sectors of any country, because if you toil with your education sector, you are toiling with the entire future of the country. Because if you are talking of development, you are talking of whether it's infrastructure development, whatever sector that you want to develop, it must be as a result of what is happening within the academics. You have to go to school to be an engineer. You have to go to school to be a doctor. You have to go to school to be a lawyer. You have to go to school to be anything that you want to become. So if you don't go, if that environment that produces your professionals is suffering, how do you expect the products of those institutions to contribute positively to the growth of the national economy? It will be a problem, because one is that either that those people come out of school, and then probably one or two of them who are actually is seen as the best brains, who ordinarily, even without going to school, there are some people ordinarily without going to school, they can actually study on their own, and they become whatever they want to become. So such kind of individuals, you will see them the moment they graduate, off they go. They leave Nigeria because the country is not a place where they want to waste their talent and waste whatever innovative minds they have. They want to seek a greener pasture, as they used to say. And that is one of the major challenges that we're having. So what happens is that the worst of us are the ones that remain behind, continuing with the rot, trying to perpetuate the rot, continuing with, and then if some of these people, if they manage to even travel abroad, they see how things are done there. And then when they come back, rather than learn and import some of those things, when they come back, they get worse, as if they don't want the country to progress. So it happens in politics, it happens in education, it happens in every area. So I don't know why the federal government have failed to meet up with some of these demands. These are like a child who is born of a parent, and then you and your child have agreed, okay, you go and learn how to repair a motorcycle, and then the child said, okay, I am going, this is XYZ thing that I need. You say, okay, I agree, start going, and the child goes there, and then midway into this thing, you say, you start reneging on that agreement. You are toiling with the future of that child,
yes.
and then that child can never by any means begin to trust you, because that is one of the major reasons why they go on strike often. And even when the federal government say go back to classes, we are dealing with the issues that you have raised, they will refuse to listen, because we have had agreements, you have not hold on to your own side of the bargain, and now this one is not even a signed agreement. You are just verbally telling us to go back to class, and then who wants to listen to that? So that is the kind of the level of distrust that exists now between the federal government and ASU. And it's not only ASU, it's virtually all the unions that has to do with any of our national life. So I think it is a time that the federal government itself begin to take things more seriously. If you know that you are not going to agree
and hold on to,
and then
hold it up,
carry out whatever agreement that you have had to the later, then why have an agreement in the first place? It's better you tell them what you agree on, what you can do, so that you can people can actually, the country can actually move on, because the way this thing is going, don't be surprised in the next 2-3 years we are coming back. They say the agreement will be reviewed
after
in 3 years.
Yes.
Now by that time probably this administration's lifespan have expired, and then the administration that is coming will now inherit the disagreement that was agreed upon,
or might not even agree to what.
And then they will now start another round of renegotiation,
yes.
And then the cycle will continue. And that is the headache that we are having in Nigeria, and that's why Nigeria hardly make progress in any sector.
Some persons have argued that the reason why the federal government does not pay so much attention, and the Ministry of Education does not pay so much attention to the public schools, that's both the federal and the state schools, majorly is because of the fact that most of them are investors into all of these private universities, and then most parents, those that can afford, get to send their kids straight to private universities instead of our normal institution, federal and state schools. Do you think that can be one of the reasons why proper attention and proper budget doesn't go to the universities?
I don't really think so, because you see, the national population is such that no matter the number of private schools and public schools that we have, we cannot actually accommodate the people who are of school age at any point in time. So if anybody is thinking that within the government circles, then I think the person is very myopic and short-sighted. He does not understand the business of education, because if you are providing a good educational services, and then the kind of products you are producing in your private school is something that people out there are looking out for, I don't think those who can afford it, they will always send their children to those private schools. And then there are people who, no matter how how much attractive the private school may be, they can never ever be able to afford a private school. And then these people, their lot is the public schools. Even as we are looking at this new agreement now, you will see that they are talking about university autonomy. And then when you talk about university autonomy, you are now talking about university becoming more or less like a revenue generating institution. Yes, so that you can be able to fund yourself. And that is another danger. That's another danger, because it will now lead to increment in tuition fees in these schools, and there are all kinds of levies that will be coming, development levy, all this library levy, this one levy, departmental levy, faculty levy, and the things like that. Yes. So all kinds of levies will now be introduced,
which will now be so much on the common man who cannot send his.
There are those people who cannot even go to the private schools, cannot be able to afford the public schools, and these are the issues. So when you have an uneducated population, you are actually endangering the future of the country.
Yes.
Because the country will neither develop nor make any meaningful progress. And then what you are talking about is you are producing a population whose minds are not properly channeled towards positive issues. As they will now go into. That's why you see that it is easy for some of these miscreants to be recruited by Boko Haram bandits and all kinds of things, or kidnapping and everything, because these are people who have nothing to lose whatsoever. They believe that the system has been unfair to them. The government have not cared about them, and then they see their fellow suffering people as the ones running the show. And then they would be descending. You see the poor, descending upon the poor, and then maiming the poor and thinking that they are their problem. These are also victims of the same systemic failure that we have. So it is about time that the government itself will begin to now take things seriously. And I want to believe that this current administration will actually implement this agreement, so that we can end this thing. Because I remember that when this government came, there was a negotiation and an agreement that was entered, and then people hailed the agreement, and people thought that, now that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has come, somebody who is seen to be a pro-ASU people, and then who is interested in education, that he has come as a new sheriff that is in town, that things are going to change. But alas, we are still signing another agreement. So these are the things that we are talking about. That's why it is something that I think all well-meaning Nigerians should appeal to the federal government to this time deal with this issue with the speed and all the seriousness that it deserves, so that we can have a serene environment for our people to go to school. Because most people who are now challenged educationally have no place to go. We need not just that we have to fund the existing school. We need more schools, because if you talk about like JAM, they're about to write JAM in the next few months, and then what will happen? You have millions of Nigerians going to different locations to write JAM and buying forms, and then at the end of it, among those who passed, maybe about 20% of those who passed JAM will be the ones to get admission, because of the quota system, and then the lack of spaces in the universities that are available. So we have to not just talk about how we fund the education in the interim, but we also look at the long-term expansion. How do we create more schools, so that more and more people who are supposed to go to school should be able to see spaces where they are going to study, so that we don't continue to produce generations of population that will actually, at the end of the day, join these criminal gangs because they did not have opportunity to go to school.
Let's look at the salaries now. 40% salary increment for the lecturers, and also that has been implemented from the 1st of January. Looking at do you think 40% increment is okay based on the current realities of Nigerian economy? You saw that professors will be earning around
1.74
yes,
to 1.8
to 1.8
million.
Yes.
The thing is this. I'm not worried or bothered about how the percentage increment. What worries me is the ability of the federal government to live to the bargain. It is not just because you have increased, they are happy, they are going. Are you willing
to make the
payment? Because if you increase 20% and you are paying, it is better than that you increase 100% and you are not paying. So these are the things that we're talking. You remember that when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came, one of the first people that got his increment and salaries and allowances were the judges.
Yes.
And then none of them have complained. But why is it that the education, when it comes to education, nobody takes it serious? Now you don't run a country that way.
Yes.
So is it that you agree or you say no, I cannot afford it. Then these people are human beings. If you have good genuine reasons that are persuasive enough, they will listen to you and say, okay, let us all sacrifice. But if they are sacrificing and you are not sacrificing on your own part, then it becomes a problem. So it is something that the federal government should actually look at, and this agreement we have agreed. We have entered into it, and let us do whatever it takes to pay this increment as far as the salaries are concerned, so that these people can actually concentrate and then be able to give our children the best of education that they deserve.
Okay, this is one of the major things that was looked into and was spoken about, that's the salary increments. And then they also made concerns around, the full autonomy. Do you think that the universities, them funding, because you highlighted some challenges that might, happen if the universities get full autonomy, and then automatically funding and all of that will be their business. Do you think that if that happens now, if the federal government agrees to that, do you think they are looking at having the common man in mind who cannot send his or her child maybe abroad or to the private universities to school? Because there will definitely be a whole lot of levies that would be paid. Do you think that would be able to hamper and then have a lot of more Nigerians in school?
In fact, it's going to be a problematic situation because, I know that the federal government have their educational loan facility that they give to indigent students, so to say. But the issue is how sustainable is it?
That, yes.
Another government that is coming, will they be able to continue the program, or they will scrap it? It's not enough to say this thing is a law. Any government that comes, they can decide to repeal the law, they can decide to amend the law to suit whatever purpose they want. So that's actually my personal fear, that I don't know how sustainable that student loan will be after this administration. And then that is why, if you are talking about autonomy, they have to find a way to deal with the issues that has to do with indigent students. Because there are some students that are in school. When we're in school, there are times that you will see some students, they may not have up to 100 naira in their pocket throughout the whole of a week.
Yes.
Yes. They
was at that position once.
In fact, when I was in school, I remember that I had 5 naira in my pocket, and that 5 naira, fortunately enough, I did not spend it because it was not. I could not use it to get anything. So I spent the week, like that, without spending the money because it was very challenging.
Yes.
So, but the thing is this: what happens to some of those categories of people? I remember filling one form then, the student affairs, they said, okay, for indigent students, you fill form, and then for loan, and it was when it was just about last year, I was searching my things, and I saw the form. I did not even submit the form. Because even those who submitted did not get anything out of it. So, and that is the tragedy. And that is the greatest challenge that we're having in Nigeria. The education sector is not taken very seriously, and it is something that actually we need to find a way to deal with once and for all.
Okay, looking at this new agreement now being signed now, and hoping that the federal government, we've seen, respond to this as ought to be. If with all of this being signed and those key things being mentioned, do you think that there will be a new dawn in Nigerian universities moving further? And again, a 4-year course will actually be a 4-year course, and then students will not have concerns of, a strike if the government fully implements the agreement they signed with ASU?
Yeah, I believe that if the government would live to their own promise by fulfilling their own part of this agreement, I can tell you that we'll have a better education sector. Things will be better. The hostility between the federal government and ASU will be seriously minimized. And this break in the academic sections that as a result of strikes, yes, and then distortion of the academic calendar and things like that will now be something that we should be able to say goodbye to. I remember that it's as a result of ASU strikes that today we don't have a regular graduation year for all schools. There are some schools, and today now NYSC, you have this one stream, this other one stream, this one stream, this stream, that, all because batch this, batch that, just because there is a challenge with our education sector that have led to incessant strikes that have made our schools not to run the same academic calendar.
Yes.
And then that is a big problem. You will see some people who are graduating while others are just trying to start their first semester exam. And then that is a very big challenge for us as a country. We should be able to regularize, not just sign this agreement, but we should be able to find a way to regularize our academic calendar so that we can be running our academic calendar the way it used to be. Before, you will know when you enter a school, you know when the year you are going to graduate. But as it is today, I am afraid that you may know the year you will gain admission, but you may never know the year that you are going to graduate from the university. And that is the reality that we have today. And this agreement has the capacity to stop that if the federal government will live up to their own bargain.
Yes, if the federal government will live up to their own bargain in terms of what they've agreed for in the agreement or in the MOU that was presented by ASU. So that will be going on a very, very quick break, and when we return back, we'll be having our second conversation, which centers around the Rivers State politics as 4 lawmakers withdrew from the impeachment saga of Similari Fubara and his deputy. Stay with us, we'll be right back shortly after this break. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Discourse here on Global Television. We just had our first conversation around Nigerian universities as ASU and the federal government of Nigeria reached an agreement, and they all signed yesterday. Agreements that centers around university autonomy, salary increments, pension, and many other concerns were raised, and the federal government reached an agreement with ASU. So now let's move away from Nigerian universities and talk about Fubara. That's talking about Rivers State politics as Fubara impeachment looms, but still, let's bring up to speed with the report. 4 members of Rivers State House of Assembly, initially parts of the group seeking to impeach Governor Similari Fubara, have publicly announced their withdrawal from the process. They cited that the need for dialogue and peace in the states. The lawmakers who withdrew are Honorable Silvanus Nwankwo, who represents Oma State constituency and serve as the minority leader. Honorable Peter Abe represents the Gama State constituency. Honorable Barry Moko, Honorable Emily Amadi. These lawmakers have appealed to their colleagues to exercise restraint and explore peace resolution to the political crisis rather than proceeding with the impeachment. So looking at this now, are you surprised, James? Are you surprised to see this number, 4 persons, just like the president says, the pain that Nigerians are feeling? It's like it's like that of a pregnant woman. Gradually, it will fade away. So now gradually we saw 2, now we are seeing additional to 4 persons now. Did you foresee this coming?
Yeah, you see, the issue is that anybody who is not biased will actually know that the impeachment process initiated against the governor and his deputy is unnecessary. It is unnecessary in the sense that there is no serious allegation of misconduct against the governor and his deputy. So, but if these people are rethinking their earlier position, that's a good development, because Rivers people need a peaceful collaboration between the state assembly and the executive, because in this kind of scenario, you cannot even oversight the executive, because the executive is seeing you as an enemy who have come to destroy whatever we are planning to do. And then how do you now oversight such executive? It is not, antagonism is okay, but when it is too prolonged, when it becomes disruptive, when it becomes more of having more of negative tendencies, it is something that one should be afraid of, because it is the people that will begin to feel the brunt of whatever thing that is happening between the assembly and the executive, because the lawmakers, as they are supposed to complement the work of the executive and also to checkmate the executive when the executive is going wrong. That is the function, the primary function of a legislature. They are not there to sing praises for the executive, neither are they to war against the executive. No, they are there to complement each other and ensure that there is a smooth running of government. But when it becomes you now weaponize the assembly against the executive, it becomes a problem. When it is something that it beats imagination, that you will be talking about the same thing over and over again. Every time there's a new dimension to the same problem, and then the problem is not getting solved, and then you begin to wonder whether it is not some of those kind of fight that you fight based on principle. You know, when you are fighting a political war based on principle, it cannot have an end, because it is just deliberate. It's just something that you are deliberately doing in order to ensure that you have your own way, and irrespective of whatever interest of the state that you are supposed to have. So it's about personal interest, it's about vendetta, it's about bring him down, it's about ensure that he did not function, it's about punish him, you know, for not being who I wanted him to be. And that is the problem we are having with the River State situation. And I think it is time that all the actors and the key persons in the River State crisis should begin to have a rethink, so that their state can make progress. Because the way they are going, I don't think the state will make serious progress if they don't stop this kind of back and forth they are having in the state. But it's commendable that these people have seen reasons why they should not be on the war path with the executive. They should have a sense of dialogue, so that at the end of it all, everybody will be the better for it. Because even the assembly itself is not, unless they are getting money from elsewhere, otherwise they themselves will be suffering. Because if you
coming to that,
because if you are antagonizing the executive, then the executive is seeing you as an enemy. He will not be able to give you money to function. Because as at today, the assembly, the state assemblies don't have autonomy. I remember that it was under, I think it was under the President Goodluck Jonathan administration that there was a constitutional amendment for the autonomy of the state assemblies, and then it was the same state assemblies that voted against it. When the constitution was, they voted against the autonomy of the state assembly, and that is the reason why today they will continue to go cap in hand to the state government to get money. And if you don't become a good legislator, you will not get anything. And that is the danger that of some of these politics that we play. Sometimes we play politics with an individual in mind, forgetting that there is a tomorrow. There's no person who is in office today that will remain there. There is no person who is in office that has made it a permanent abode. At most, every 8 years, someone else will come there and be whatever you think that you are. So that is the reason why whenever we find ourselves in elective position or appointive position, we should be able to have the interest of the generality of the people as one of our priorities, so that when you leave office, people will have good things to say about you. You know, I am one of those who have been advocating that you should not come and tell me that I should not talk ill of the dead, because the dead, while alive, refuse to live right, and then he's dead. You say I should not talk ill of him. No, I must say what he has done that he did wrong while he was alive, and that is why every one of us who wants people to have a good memory, a sweet memory of you when you have left this world, you should live right and do right when you have the opportunity.
Live right and do right when you have the opportunity. We saw also the FCT minister quickly rounding up his tour in Rivers State, local government tours in Rivers State. Do you think, the tour was in line with this, proposed or planned impeachment? And why do you think Fubara is yet to receive the sanction? Do you think it's because of the fact that they are trying to negotiate a peace deal, because they are all now members of Progressive Party?
You see, that is, the whole impeachment is politically motivated. It was never meant to be just to disturb him, make sure that he is uncomfortable, put him on his toes, make him on ease, and all that. Because if you say you want to impeach somebody, it's over a month. it's getting to a month that you have started the impeachment process, and you have not served the person the impeachment notice. So what are you? I don't even know what. So it becomes, it's just there are some forces that are just weaponizing the assembly against the executive, and that is not a good thing to do. So I don't know why that is the what they think that is should be the right thing to do. But as far as I'm concerned, it is needless, because it is the people of Rivers State that will suffer. And even if it is any other state, it's still the people of that state that will suffer. So let us begin to look at politics as a way of ensuring the betterment of not just the life of those who are in office, but the life of those who are being governed. So that at the end of it, you as a former leader of any state or any local government will be looked, you can be able to pass through the streets and go freely, and people will be hailing you. You don't need all these security aids that we are talking about. You don't need when they say they withdraw security from them, they are wailing and they are crying, because you know that you are not doing the right thing. If you are doing the right thing, it is the people that protect you. Go and check governments that have faced all kinds of external challenges by some external forces that probably did not like the administration for whatever reason. But you see that it was the people who stood for them, who stood against such forces, and they are the ones that have continually, dealt with some of the forces that were trying to stop whatever that administration is doing. And that is the thing that we should be aiming at in Nigeria, that anything that the government is doing, they should do it with the interest of the people at heart, so that at the end of it, the people will be the ones to now defend you, even when any challenge comes your way.
All right, that's the size of our edition on today's edition of Discourse. At the end of the day, it just boils down to what the leaders would do, because if you get to do your part as a leader, of course the people would definitely stand with you. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Comrade James Ezema, for taking our time to join us on Discourse today, and we're hoping to see you more as we discuss other further issues as they arise.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, and this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again as we discuss further. Bye for now.